Welcome to Your Money on Market Sense. My name is Diabo Seto, and thank you so much for staying with SABC News. More people are now working from home due to the COVID-19 lockdown, and many more will be able to claim from the taxman for tax deduction. Remember, it is tax season now. So the income tax, it does permit deductions for expenditure incurred in the production of income while working from home. But this will only happen once certain conditions are met. Naledi Matlapeng reports.
Remote working is becoming the norm as companies are trying to minimize the risk of contracting COVID-19. If you are a full-time employee who spends more than 50% working from home, or you get paid through commission, you can claim tax deductions from the taxman in the next tax assessment ending February 2021. You can claim for expenses incurred on internet usage, cell phone, computer and rental costs.
The things that they can claim for will include property-related expenses such as rent or bond interest, rates and taxes, insurance on the home. Those would all be pro rata expenses, and where they qualify for general business expenses, things like telephone and internet costs would be included in there.
But for you to qualify for this, you should have a dedicated area of the home set aside exclusively for doing work on a regular basis, and it must be used regularly for more than 6 months of the tax year. It must also be separate and be able to be identified easily.
The requirement is that your home office must be specifically equipped for the purposes of your trade. So essentially what that means is that you need a dedicated space which you use regularly and exclusively for purposes of doing your work.
Experts agree that if you have a home office, it must be set up correctly in order to get the most out of it in terms of tax savings, and you will only qualify for this if your employer has requested that you work from home and not when it is your own initiative. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Still on the tax topic, so more people obviously are working from home due to this pandemic. We take a further look at how one is eligible to claim for tax deductions and if there are conditions attached to this. So for more on this, I am joined via Skype by Petro Olivier. She's a tax consultant at Niche Accounting and Taxation. Petro, thank you so much for joining us on Your Money on Market Sense. Before I even go into working from home, what has been your experience with the automated tax season? I know that a lot of people have been having issues with that. Have you been finding that you find more customers who are working from home and have been automatically tax assessed, and what has been the experience?
Yes, definitely. More people are working from home, so everything has moved virtually or remotely. And I think the automated tax season went quite well, yes.
Let's talk about...
experienced any difficulty.
Sorry for that, Petro. Let's talk about now this issue of working from home. And Naledi did explain it a bit in her insert just previously, but can you take us further about, what one is able to claim for tax deductions for and what the conditions that are attached are?
Okay, yes. If you work from home, like they said, it must be a dedicated workspace. So the workspace that you use, it must be a proper study room, and it must be exclusively in regularly used, specific for your working in your work for business purposes, and then for your work. So it cannot just be a dining room table that you work at. It must be a dedicated workspace.
Then who makes sure that one has a dedicated workspace? Because enforcement is important now. How do you prove to the taxman that indeed this corner of the house is my workspace and I work from here for the 40 hours perhaps that's needed per week from my employer?
Yes. You need to be honest when you submit your tax return. And when you submit your tax return, you declare that the information that you submitted and that you provide are true and accurate. So the only way that SARS will be able to verify that information is when they actually visit your home and have a look at what your workstation looks like.
But surely that's something that's generally not done, or maybe are we the ones that don't know that tax people from SARS, they come to your home to inspect? And also, do you have to work for at least 6 months to qualify for this?
Yeah. That is one of the requirements, is that you work at least 6 months of the year from home, yes.
So that means that people who have been working from home since March, that would make it about 5 months. Would that necessarily mean that if you've been home since March when lockdown was effected until now, you effectively do not qualify?
No, you will have to work until the end of September.
Let's talk about the value-added tax, using that as a portion of your house as a business. Are you eligible to claim for that, for VAT?
Well, only if you are registered VAT vendor, then you will be able to claim VAT. But otherwise, it will just be a normal expense for you.
And just lastly, Petro, just talk to our viewers about what the documentation that would be needed and other tax measures that our viewers should be aware of.
Well, you'll have to keep record of all expenses that you incurred that is related to your home-related expenses. So you'll have to keep invoices, statements, and the documents will have to be kept for about 5 years. Yeah, and then you have to submit that with your tax return. Normally what happens is you'll complete your tax return, you will submit that, and then SARS, after the assessment, they will ask you for the supporting documents. So then you can just upload on e-filing.
Petro Olivier, thank you so much. You've been so helpful, especially now that it's tax season. We thank you so much. Petro Olivier is a tax consultant at Niche Accounting and Taxation Consultancy, and she's been talking to us about how you go about claiming for your tax deductions if you've been working from home.